Share this out after this session. But welcome to all of you who joined us. I can see our numbers are ticking up just a little bit here, so we may have some folks joining us, but we want to thank you all for joining us. We are very happy. I know it's a beautiful night here for those of you that are in New England. It's a beautiful spring night. We haven't had a lot of those, so thank you for joining us on Zoom when you could be literally outside enjoying a very nice evening. For those of you for whom it's morning, thank you for joining us very early in the morning from across the world. We appreciate that as well. But my name is Heather Schaus. I'm the Director of College Counseling, and I'm joined by Harry Backrack, our Associate Director of College Counseling. Our other Associate Director, Jack Nivison, is splitting time today. This is also the evening of our athletic celebration for all of our D3 athletes who will be going on and continuing their collegiate careers on the D3 level. So he's over at the Student Center with those seniors and their families, taking lots of pictures and celebrating them this evening. So we do have a third, but he will not be able to join. The spring is really busy, as I'm sure your kids and you are all experiencing at the moment. I do community service for my afternoon program, and this afternoon I said to one of our students that graduation is in 10 days, and I think I really rocked her world with that information. She was like, "Wait, that can't be right. That can't be right." I was like, "Yeah, it's about 10 days away at this point, so maybe 12, but we're closing in on it, so we're getting close to the end." I am going to share my screen here so that we can get started. We have maybe about a 30-minute sort of formal-ish presentation that Terry and I will walk through, and then we will open it up for questions. If you're able to put questions into the Q&A section. Actually, it looks like we've got a chat, so we'll do it in the chat. That would be great if you're able to share those as we go, and then we'll address those after we kind of get through the formal portion here. But I know some of you were able to join us. Let's see. There we go. Some of you were able to join us this fall. We had our first webinar for ninth and 10th grade families back in November. At that point, we were about halfway through the first semester. Your students had just gotten their first mid-semester report card. So we checked in about sort of where we were, what was to come. And so we thought this would be a good time to do that again now that we're just a few weeks away from the end of the year, to kind of check in with where your students are at, what's happening here on campus. Other than Twilight Softball, as you heard Harry and I talking about, that's a pretty great governor's tradition. Students go out and play softball on these beautiful spring evenings, and it's sort of a massive free-for-all. There's about 20 kids in the outfield at any given time, another 20 lined up to bat. So it's a lot of fun. So our seniors and a lot of our underclassmen are out there doing that tonight. But we wanted to go over a little bit of sort of where we're at, particularly in terms of course registration, which I know your students have been likely talking about. Then Harry will talk a little bit about standardized testing and tutoring, summer activities, summer athletic recruitment for some of your students that are interested in continuing to play their sport in college. I'll give you a little bit of advice about what students and families can be doing now. There's certainly nothing they have to be doing now. They are no way behind. But we have a few sort of general suggestions for those students that are ready and want to lay the foundation to maybe make that process a little bit smoother. I was again just thinking about the calendar a little bit earlier and realizing that our rising juniors are about 6 months away from the official kickoff of their college process. We'll be meeting with them in early October to officially jumpstart that process. So they have some time, but it is around the corner, and we want to make sure that they're ready. And there's a few ideas for what they can be doing to get there. So now we're just over 2 weeks to go. So in terms of kind of what has been happening here this spring, course registration has definitely been a big topic of conversation, really kind of constantly throughout the spring. When your students came back from spring break, they had a convocation for all of the ninth, 10th, and 11th graders, where the department heads for each department presented their course offerings. They talked about what would be available next year and how students can learn a little bit more about that and what options they'll have. After that, our teachers started meeting with students individually, talking with them about what they might like to do next year so that they can make their recommendations. That was the first step. The first couple weeks of April, our teachers spent making recommendations for what they thought the best next step for our students might be. So for our ninth graders, our rising 10th graders, they have a little bit of choice as they go into sophomore year. Not as much as they will have down the road, but some of them might be looking at maybe adding in some honors work if they've reached the third level of their foreign language and those honors classes are available. Maybe they might be looking to move up if they haven't done honors work in math or science in their first year. They do have the option of taking their first AP class for those that are interested in history and want to take on the AP World History class. They have that option, and then they all pretty much take sophomore English. Most of our students are then obviously just moving up in their language, moving to the next level in math, moving into chemistry for most of them in science if they've already done their biology. So there's not a lot of variety, but there's a little bit of leveling, and they are not required to take world history in their 10th grade year. So some of our students whose interests lie elsewhere might elect to double in science or to add a computer science class or something like that if they're not as interested in history. For our rising 10th graders going into, or excuse me, our current 10th graders, rising 11th graders, they have a lot more options. And so that's where we held some open office hours during that first week of April and again later in April once they had a chance to talk with their advisor to help them because there's a lot of choice and a lot of them want to just dive right in and just grab it all with both hands and take on all the challenge and all the options available. But we do also want them to set themselves up for success. So we really work closely with the students. During the last half of April, their meeting, they met with their advisors to look at all of those course recommendations, those placement recommendations that their teachers had entered into the system to see, okay, so let's look at the big picture now. This, your biology teacher knows how you've done in science. They might recommend you for a science class. How does that fit in with all the other recommendations that you're receiving? Do you want to be taking several honors courses in AP, or does that feel like too much? Do you think maybe you might just take some challenge in science because that's where your interests lie and maybe not follow through on the rest? The advisors help sort of sort through all those questions. And then we had those open office hours so they could come to us, ask a college counselor, okay, so if I go this route, how is this going to look for colleges? Particularly for our rising juniors, they often are looking sort of ahead to senior year as well. So if I take these courses junior year, then I'll have these left that I want to do senior year in combination. How does that look? And we, again, try to talk them down because they're so excited. They get to, they don't have these requirements they've had in the past where they've had to do, a life skills class or a public presentation skills. They've met all those sort of basic requirements. They have a little more flexibility with their schedule. They can take a wider variety. They've taken their biology and their chemistry. They've got a lot of science options. So we've tried to help them navigate through that to build a schedule that ultimately gives them balance, that allows them to challenge themselves as appropriate, but also sets them up for success. And we help them think through, that means balancing both your in-class and out-of-class involvement and commitments. Because often they're kind of focused just on the academic piece. And they forget that in junior year, a lot of times those extracurricular commitments are really starting to add up too. They might have a proctor role, they might have a captain's role, they might, be taking on some additional leadership here or deepening some of the things they're involved in. So we want them to make sure they're able to succeed in those areas that they really enjoy outside the classroom as well. So we want them to be set up for success. Oftentimes they are getting recommended to take some of those higher level courses because they've been successful in their first year, in their second year, and we want them to continue that. And colleges want them to continue that. They don't want them to overload themselves to the point that their grades are really dropping. So we're trying to help them find that appropriate balance of what's going to allow them to continue that success while challenging them in the areas that they particularly enjoy. So that's been our goal. Right now, we're a little bit in limbo as far as the course registration process. A lot, particularly in math and science, and particularly for those students that might be looking to bump up, maybe take on an AP class or an honors class where they haven't done that in the past. Our teachers are waiting for end of the year grades. They want to see how the students finish out the year, take that exam, see what those exam grades are before they finalize their recommendations. So a lot of that is sort of just waiting to see how they finish up the next couple weeks. Once those exam grades and final grades are in, our teachers will solidify those requests, and then the academic office gets to work They feed all those requests into their algorithm and into their course request system that builds the master schedule. Of course, we're also a small school, and there's some classes that only have one section. There's only one AP Chinese section, or there's only, one section of some certain classes. Sometimes that means that not all of the requests are able to be honored. And so when those schedules come out in mid-July, there's some time to adjust, to pivot, to make some changes if students didn't get all of those requests or if things have changed. Some of our students may be doing a summer program and all of a sudden they've fallen in love with the idea of neuroscience and want to change their science course, or they might be an athletic recruit and a coach is telling them, gosh, I really would really help you out a lot if you could add an honors course next year. Show our admissions office that you're challenging yourself that way. So there's some time to do that kind of tweaking before our students get back in September. And if you haven't looked ahead, they get back rather late in September. We come back on the 7th this year because Labor Day is very late. So they have lots of time home with you this summer. So for better or worse, they'll be home quite a bit, but they do have a lot of time. There'll be plenty of time to adjust. And then our first 2 weeks of the fall semester are our drop add period. So a lot of the conversations that we're having with students are, okay, if you do want to go through with this really rigorous schedule, we want you to really be mindful in those first couple weeks. Really think about how this is feeling. Is this sustainable? Is the level of work and effort that you're putting in now, the time you're spending on this homework, is this going to be sustainable for you for the next 34 weeks of the school year? Because if not, then that's the time to make some adjustments to maybe drop down a level or drop a sixth class if you're taking a sixth class. And we're here to help them walk through that as well. But we really just want to make sure they take those first 2 weeks and do it intentionally to see if the balance of their course load, if we've gotten it right, or if there need to be some tweaks. So that's probably more than you ever needed to know about course registration. That's quite a bit of information. So I'm going to turn over to Harry to talk about our evening's equally fun topic of standardized testing.
Great. Thanks, Heather. So if you're a parent of a 10th grader, you know that your child just took an ACT or SAT, a diagnostic exam. So now they have a decision to make about which test is best for them, the ACT or SAT. Um, and that can be a decision based on feeling, based on if they like the ACT science section. They can use percentile scores as well. So moving forward, they can consider which test they prefer to take. They'll take their first official test in the late fall, which for students who have completed Algebra 2 um, might work for them. If they haven't completed Algebra 2, maybe sometime in their junior year, the math tests, the math portions of those tests run through Algebra 2. So it's important to have completed that course before you're taking an official exam. There are ways to practice. You're always welcome to have your student enroll in group classes or individual tutoring sessions, although there are free options. Khan Academy Online, we find, is a very good free resource if your student can guide themselves to a score they want on the exam. We would caution you not to rush into accommodations for your students after a diagnostic test. This is just a baseline that they just did. So have them take it another time, have them do a little practice on their own or with a tutor before asking for an accommodation. Again, this was just a baseline at this point.
And most of these students haven't taken a standardized test because governors didn't require a standardized test for entrance. So for many of them, this is the first time they've even had this experience. So very much a baseline.
So as we're heading into summer, it's just around the corner. Summer is a great time for students to get out of the school routine, do something different, do something that's meaningful to them. Um, and there are plenty of things to do that don't have to be expensive. We know that these pre-college programs at various colleges and universities offer expensive college programs. Colleges don't expect to see those in applications. What colleges really want is that students delve into something meaningful over the summer, or maybe they make some money or something that's important to them. So whether that's a job, whether that's a volunteer experience, they can get ahead on community service hours if they need to. Or they can do a pre-college program if that funding is available. But what's also important is that they leave time to rest and relax. It just is important that they're refreshed for the next fall, so that they're ready to hit the ground running and start the next school year on the right foot here. So there's not a right summer activity. There's not one summer activity that colleges are looking for. The best summer activity for your student is one that they're going to enjoy, and maybe it could turn into a college essay topic, but certainly not one that costs money or one that they think colleges are looking for. So, what can your student be doing? Oh,
Sorry, that was user operator error. I'm sorry.
all good. So, for athletics, some of your students might be athletic recruits at college. And certainly for students heading into junior year, this can be a big summer for certain sports at the Division I level, like lacrosse, field hockey, and soccer. So, what's important about athletics at this point is that your student stays in touch with their college counselor. Coaches might be asking for transcripts or test scores, and so it's important that we know which schools are they're considering for athletics. And if we did send a transcript, we're more than happy to send a transcript for them. Um, and then official visits. Your student might be asked to make an official visit to a college. This is just at the Division I or Division II level. The reason that we talk about official visits is because at those levels, you only get 5 official visits. And so we think it's important that you're taking an official visit at a school that you're really considering attending. Taking an official visit to a school that you're not interested in is probably not a good use of time for the student or for the coach. And so, it's great to take the visit and then play the sport, but it's also great when you're on the visit to get to know the college, take the tour, do an info session, ask your questions, um, ask your potential teammates about their experience at the school, so you can come back and you can make an honest assessment about if you actually like the school or not. Um, and so we do. One of the reasons that we like to be in the loop as college counselors is because we try to caution students not to miss too many academy commitments by visiting other colleges. And so this year, for our Division I athletes, the schedule actually works out a little favorably because September 1st is the day that Division I colleges can offer students. And so those visits might happen sometime between September 1st and when we start school on the 7th. So there is that week in between, which would be a good time for visits as we start school a little later. So in terms of what you can do about selecting colleges at this point. So while some students might be recruits, for students who are not playing sports in college, or even if you are, you can do this too. You can start to decipher what kind of environment you want for a college. So the nice part about being in Boston is it's one big college campus. As your student is at Govs, they can certainly take the Boston shuttle. On the weekend and go visit a college. So like Boston University and MIT are right across the river from each other. They can go visit our urban city school. They can go visit BC, which is a suburban school. They can go visit, name your school. Get used to the kind of environment that they want. Some students think they want a city school and they realize they get to BU and oh my God, this is too much city for me. I actually would rather be in the suburbs. So that can help them understand what kind of possibilities are out there for them and what environment feels right. Colleges do offer virtual visits as well, so there isn't a need to be in person. Demonstrated interest works both ways, in person and virtually. So virtual tours are really good online. Info sessions are often recorded for colleges, or you can do them live. So you're welcome to do that, but keep it fun at this point. It doesn't need to be, serious officials. You don't have to sit in on an actual info session. Try and have fun in the area you're at. A lot of these colleges, especially in the Boston area, since Boston's such a small city, are close to stuff to do. So go get a good bite to eat. Go um, go take a nice walk along the river. Keep it light. And also be open and upfront about any guardrails. If you know that there are some financial limitations or that maybe you're not thrilled with the location of a school, or maybe the school's values don't align with you. Those are certainly good reasons to think about why that school might not be a fit. Schools certainly look for students who align with their values, and so if those values don't line up, then maybe that's not a school for you. Every school is required to have a net price calculator online on their website. So you're welcome at this point in the college search to fill that out, and you can see if the range of costs of possibilities, if that school is financially feasible. So those are some pretty easy ways to get started now. Again, just exploring general locations and thinking about programs and values that the schools have. And I think at this point, I'm turning it back to you, Heather.
Yes, we'll see if I can. Oh, all right, I can switch and unmute at the same time. It's gotta refresh my zooming here. I haven't done as much of that lately. So a couple more ideas in terms of what students can be doing now and what families can be doing now to kind of lay the foundation for the college search. First of all, is encourage self-reflection. That is not a thing we give your students a whole lot of time to do here. They are running, running, running from class to practice to club meetings to homework. And so they don't have a lot of time to really step back and kind of think about what it all means and what they've learned during their time here. So the summer is a great time. They've got a little distance and a little perspective to just, gently ask them some questions. Driving in the car together is the best time for those conversations. But while they don't have to look you in the eyes, they can just, pretend they're listening to their iPod, their AirPods, and maybe give you a couple of words. But it's a great time for them to think a little bit about how they've grown during their time at Governors, what they might have learned or discovered about themselves. Are there, activities they want to get involved in before graduation? Are there leadership roles they'd like to hold before graduation? Are there skills or teams or sports they want to try? Have they always wanted to try to be in the musical and never gotten up the courage to audition? This is a good time to start setting some of those goals, looking ahead a little bit so they don't miss out, so that they're able to take advantage of all the resources that are here and all the opportunities. Particularly if they're looking ahead. I know we just had our leadership application was due just last week. So a lot of them now are kind of doing some interviewing and waiting to see what might be possible. But particularly for those students thinking about, maybe they were boarders this year as ninth graders, and their dorm proctor was a really influential figure for them, was really meaningful in helping them make that adjustment and have a good year here. So some of our students may be thinking, gosh, I'd really like to do that down the road too. I'd love to be in a ninth grade dorm and be that person when I'm a senior here at Governor. So this is a great time to start thinking about, well, what would I need to do if that was something I wanted to be before I graduate? Probably doing your dorm jobs that your dorm faculty ask you to do is a good start. Being the one that that helps build that community on your floor, that is reliable about taking out the trash and cleaning out the fridge and doing those kinds of things, is setting yourself up to be seen by your peers and by your faculty as someone that might be appropriate for that role down the road. So they can start thinking about, how they want to really maximize those next couple of years. What they've learned about themselves as a student, what they've learned about how they learn best, how they work best. Some of our students have learned, gosh, you know what, being in a place like this where I'm really seen and my teachers know me and I have relationships with adults has been so good. It's been so helpful for me. I think I want to be in a smaller environment in college and have a similar kind of feel. I think that's really how I learn and do my best work. Other students say, yeah, this has been great. I've enjoyed, those connections, but I'm ready for the bigger world. I want to be in a much larger school where I've got access to graduate opportunities, where I've got access to, high level research, those kinds of things. So this is a good time to sort of think broadly about, okay, so where am I? What have I learned? What does this mean about what might be next for me down the road? And in terms of preparing for what's down the road, we started thinking a little bit more in the last year or two about the role of executive functioning in this college process. I think it's something that for us college counselors, the last few years, we've kind of gone, gosh, these kids are really struggling to manage all the pieces of this college search. It feels like a lot. I'm not really sure what's going on. And I think it's that we haven't really fully assessed the executive functioning demands that we're putting on these kids in this process. I was just reading a study that showed that, on a daily basis, as ninth and 10th graders, our students, and I have a 10th grader in the sophomore class, so I see this too. Our students are being asked to navigate 6 to 10 different platforms every day. They have their school email, they have their personal email, they have their Google Drive, their Google Classroom, their Veracross system, the cloud. They have other websites that they belong to. Some of them will use websites to help manage their calendars and their schedules. They have portals for different things. They bring asked, and their math class might have a special math portal or site that they go to for learning purposes and modules. It's a lot. And it's all invisible. It's all just in their computer, in their phone. When they're not looking at it right away, it sort of disappears. It's not like those big planners that those of us who went to school back in the 90s and 2000s used to have, where we could write everything out and put it on a calendar. It's all invisible unless they log in. So I think particularly for our rising juniors, this is a great summer to really make sure they have a system in place, whatever that is that works for them. This article and study that I read said that we're really asking them to be project managers without giving them any of the tools that professional project managers have access to. And so, of course, this is really, really difficult. So to help them think about what works best, is it setting lots of reminders and alarms on phones? Is it using one of these websites that helps you keep track of all of your commitments inside and outside the classroom? Is it a big whiteboard in your room that you can erase and do month by month? Whatever it is, helping them really come up with a good system that works before they get into the college process, because unfortunately it adds a whole nother giant layer of complexity to this process. We ask them to log into an online platform that we have that manages application data. That's where they'll keep their lists as they're doing research and building their list, where we'll suggest colleges for them to think about, where you as parents can suggest colleges. We share information there. We're asking them to create accounts on the ACT or College Board site so they can take standardized testing. We're asking them to fill out applications, financial aid applications. There is one central application that most colleges take, but not all. Some colleges have their own online applications. It is a lot for them to manage. And once they submit those applications, they all think, great, I'm done. I can just sit back until I hear. Oh no, each college has its own portal that they have to create a login to. Some of them are very complicated, that they are able to log into, and they can see their eventual decision online through that portal. So it is important that they create those. It's a lot to manage. So whatever you can do to help support that executive functioning, to help them develop systems that will work for them, it'll just be a smoother process for them in general. Another note, just to follow up on what Harry said about sort of planning ahead financially to learn about which schools might be financially feasible for you and your family. We do have a fantastic partnership with College Money Method. Paul Martin of College Money Method has done 6 webinars for us on financial aid and merit-based aid for college this year. You can see there at the bottom, that's our online resource center. That's the website and the password to get in. All of our families have access. There's recordings of those 6 webinars. There's lots of resources in there. There's, lists of colleges that provide merit-based aid. There's lists of colleges that don't consider home equity when they're calculating financial aid. There's lists of colleges that consider home equity and the percentage they can say. It's really comprehensive. So there's a lot of great stuff in there for those of you that are thinking about the financial piece, which I think we all are these days, of paying for college. There's 2 particular workshops that were targeted to ninth and 10th grade families this spring. One was sort of navigating this new system of college pricing. How does this work? And then the second one was about how colleges actually assess your ability to pay and how they come up with their offer of financial aid or merit scholarship. So both of those are a great place to start if you're interested in learning a little bit more. Like Harry said, every college in the country is federally mandated to have a net price calculator on their website. So you can just simply Google net price calculator for X university. Doesn't really matter which one, just doing any of them is a really helpful place to start start. If you're not sure if you might qualify for financial aid, it allows you to anonymously enter some financial information and it will generate basically what that college will expect that you can contribute. So it might say, okay, based on the numbers you've entered, obviously this isn't the full picture, but it's enough that we can say, roughly, we probably will ask you to contribute $50,000 towards your child's college expenses each year. For a college that costs $90,000, if they're thinking you're going to send 50, you can expect to receive about 40,000 in financial aid. So that's a really helpful place to start for those of you that are curious about that. A friend did give me some advice. I have a daughter who'll be a rising junior, and she said when you visit, run that net price calculator before each visit. That's really helpful to give you a sense of what the financial picture might look like. She also said, like Carrie said, to make it fun. She said with her daughter, they rated wings, so they went to all the wing places near college campuses that they could find. They did a whole comprehensive rating of who had the best wings. Poughkeepsie, New York, apparently is where you can find the best wings according to their family. But whatever it was with her youngest, she said they would go and try to find some kind of theatrical production, whether it was something small, something on campus, something in town. That was what they did when they went and did college visits. So whatever works for your child, it's really nice to have something other than the college visits and the tours to talk about on those long drives or nights in a hotel or over dinner after those visits, when your kid is just really burnt out and doesn't want to hear another fact related to college. So a couple words of wisdom from a more experienced college counselor who's been through this with her children. But certainly, take advantage of these wonderful college money method resources because they really are helpful. And with that, I think we will open it up for questions. I will stop sharing. I will get the plug in. We are around all summer. So if you or your student have questions, someone will be in the office from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. each day. You are welcome to reach out to email your child's college counselor and let us know if we can help, particularly for those folks who are navigating that D1 athletic recruitment process. It's going to heat up for sure. And we know, particularly, I was just talking to some of the girls that are looking at field hockey and they know June 15th is coming. I don't know why it's so early for them, but I know it's going to be a busy summer for those folks. So if there's ways that we can help support you and your student, please let us know. I'm going to stop sharing and I think, let's see. The chat should be open. If anyone wants to put questions into the chat, please feel free. Either we've covered it all or everyone's in a post-dinner coma here. I probably should have said this earlier, but like I said, the rising juniors will officially kick off this process in early October. The rising sophomores have another year free of having to trek up to the third floor of the college counseling office over here in Phillips Hall. They all come up out of breath and complain that we're up on the third floor. But the sophomores have another year. The rising sophomores, they do know where we are. They're welcome to drop in, but there's nothing official they need to connect with us about at all at this point. Oh, it says the chat is disabled, unfortunately. Wonder if I am able to enable it. I think I must have done that in the settings. And I don't see a Q&A. I wonder if there's a way.
Heather, I'm able to see the Q&A.
You can see the Q&As? Okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to let you lead that because unfortunately I can't see
sure.
it for some reason.
So we have one question. Does Gauss have any leads on summer internships or other learning opportunities? So we're happy to meet with students about summer internships or other learning opportunities. Like I said, colleges do pre-college programs, which you can pay for. Um, as far as I'm concerned, Heather, correct me. we do not track internships that students can do over the summer. That's a place where families can take the lead and help their student find an internship. We can certainly help them think through what they're interested in and um, when might be a good opportunity for an internship. And there are certainly resources online available to figure out where there are summer opportunities. But Heather, if you have more, please feel free to add on.
Sure. I think because our students do come from such a wide, variety of areas, it's hard for us to maintain a list because they tend to do things back at home where they are over the summer. I will say that your students did receive an email from Erica Mitkis. She's the director of our Alphon Center here on campus, and she sent a list of summer opportunities, particularly within marine and ecological biological sciences. So if any of your students are interested in those fields and working those fields, she sent a really comprehensive list of summer opportunities, kind of up and down the East Coast here of Massachusetts. So have them do a little search for Erica Mitkis's email. They did receive that, and that's a great place to start for our students that are interested in science. But they're welcome to come in and talk with us. We're happy to share what students have done previously. It's just each student is very their interests are very individual and their location is very diverse. So we can help with what their specific interests are.
And now we have, does Gauss have a list of one-on-one SAT tutors who offer support in the Boston area? So our test prep partner, Revolution Test Prep, they administer our diagnostic tests. And after that, they'll offer one free 30-minute session to go over your score and to go over what test might be best for you. You're under no obligation to do this, but they will try to sell you on their services. So that is one way that you could have SAT test prep. As far as I know, we do not have a list of one-on-one SAT or test prep tutors. Um, although I'm sure we could research organizations that would have that.
Yeah, I think it really, each student kind of works, what works
Mhm.
for each student is a little bit different. Some students are very self-motivated and can work through the free resources on ACT.org or on Khan Academy, get lots of practice and see good results from doing that. Others are really successful in a small group class, like a Princeton Review or a Stanley sort of opportunity where it's a little bit less expensive and but you're still getting the practice test assigned and having that homework and they're able to work through that. Some students really need the one-on-one or the flexibility of being able to meet with someone over Zoom, given their busy schedule. So Revolution Prep does that. There's lots of others as well. There's Arbor Bridge and Compass tutoring. There's lots of different. Sullivan Tutoring is nearby. There's lots of different ways to do that. So yeah, I think it just depends on what you think will work best for your student and what time you have, what the flexibility is like. And really don't feel like you need to rush a lot of test prep this summer. For some of your students who've already taken Algebra 2, they may want to look at a fall test. They may be ready for some of that prep this summer. For others that are taking Algebra 2 in their junior year, this is specifically thinking about rising juniors, they may want to wait summer after junior year may be more effective for them because they'll have had all the math they need. They can take a test in the spring and then really focus on the areas that they need to zoom in on.
Heather, we have another question about SAT test prep that I might see if you know better than I do. Where can we find SAT training information?
I'm wondering if I'm not exactly sure at the SAT train, but I'm wondering if that might mean we've referred to this practice test, and we should explain, especially for the ninth grade parents here. The 10th grade parents have probably heard the complaints from their 10th graders enough this spring that they know what this is all about. But the ninth grade parents, we do offer a practice SAT. Ah, Jack made it out of the athletic signing. Welcome. We do offer a practice SAT and ACT diagnostic test. It's basically a full-length SAT and a full-length ACT exam for all of our sophomores in the spring of sophomore year. So they took the SAT back in February. They just took the ACT a couple of weeks ago, just to give our students some familiarity, a chance to go through a full-length exam and see where their scores are. Like I said, these classes were not required to take standardized testing when they applied to governors. So some of our students did. Some of them, this is their very first time with standardized testing. So we want them to have that experience to see which test format might work better for them, which one they feel plays to their strengths. So all of your students will be able to do that next year. That may be what you're referring to, because I know we didn't really explain that for the ninth grade parents. If that was mistaken, please let me know. Enter another question in the chat if that's something else that you're thinking about. I think Jack wanted to add a thought to that as well.
Oh no, I was just clearing them out. But
Oh,
uh,
okay.
but yeah. Hi everyone, Jack Nivison, one of the college counselors, just came from our D3 athletic signing where we celebrated 15 student athletes, and I hope you had a great panel.
We do that every spring. We usually do our D1 and 2 signing. I think we had 7 students in the fall that were going on to play on the D1 and 2 level, and so they sign the NIL. So it's a little bit more official. The D3 folks have to wait till the spring till all those letters of admission are out, and then we get to celebrate them. All right, I think maybe we've covered it. But again, I know we've said this a million times, but a big part of doing this webinar is just so that you can see our faces, hear a little bit more, know that we are here, and we are happy to help. So please reach out, call, email. If there's anything that we can do, have your students come up. We're on the 3rd floor. It is a hike, but it's 2 floors up from the dining hall, so so they're over here in this building multiple times a day. It's not that out of the way. But they're welcome to come by with questions, and we're happy to help any of you anytime as you navigate through all of this. So thank you again for joining us. Take care. The next couple weeks are going to fly by and they're going to be jam-packed. So thank you in advance for dealing with that roller coaster and helping your students get through and finish the year as strongly as possible and enjoy having them home. Have a wonderful summer. Thanks so much.